So what you're going to do, and I've found the most powerful way of doing this, is actually writing and journaling before you actually practice this. To your good health, gentlemen. Now today I wanted to talk a little bit, lecture a little bit about reality creation and some of the tools and techniques that you can start to implement today that are going to lead you to start to see the fruits of reality creation manifest into your particular paradigm. Now, I must preface this by saying that your belief system heavily influences the success of this technique. And if you are a rational and logical thinker like me, then you need data, you need evidence, you need some kind of example to show you that this actual technique has weight. Now, hopefully, my endorsement will be enough for some of you, but for the more skeptical among you, it will not be. So I'm going to share a little lesson I learned from a book called The Body Holds the Score, I believe it's called. If I have time, I'll probably put a little cutout of it up on the side here. And it's by a Dutch fellow whose name is escaping me right now, but it essentially holds the premise of how powerful your thoughts are. So the book is based on a scientist's research on PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now you might be asking yourself, Joseph, why on earth are you talking to me about PTSD? Well, PTSD, once you actually pass out some of the trauma and actually get to the meat and bones of what's actually happening in that individual, is that scientists have now discovered and believe without a shadow of a doubt that the mind cannot tell the difference between an event that you imagine or an event that you think in your mind, like a memory, and an event that's happening in real time. Just to clarify, the body can't tell the difference between those two. So, for an example, if you have had a particularly traumatic event in your life and you start to imagine it in vivid detail, you recollect that memory and you close your eyes. If you do this correctly, you'll begin to feel the bodily sensations, the kinetic feedback of that event happening in real time. So it's probably not a good example or a good memory to dwell on too much, but if your close one had passed away and you began to go back to that memory and you sit and you visualize that memory, your body will experience the same kind of emotional pain that you did back then. So you may be asking yourself, well, what does that mean? What are the consequences of that kind of power? And it's just that. It's the power of your mind. It's the power to such an extent that you can create kinetic feedback feelings in real time just through this medium, just through this device. And many of us are unknowingly creating our own trauma, our own pain, by unacknowledging the power of our thoughts, by not taming it. Just think about that for a second. How many of you are unbeknowingly creating your own suffering, or perhaps even creating your own joy by waking up in the morning, let's say, turning over to your phone and flicking through Instagram, which is just a comparison device, and then you're starting to fuel your thoughts with negative emotions, which are then fueling your body with negative feelings, which are then creating the, let's say, the sentiment for the day. So the question then becomes, after this has been ratified concretely by science, is if you can think back to an event in your past that can have sensory experiences in the present, can you project and create events in the future and feel them in the present, and what kind of effect will that have for the individual? And that is a very powerful one, that is a very interesting one, and that is the premise of reality creation. The technique that I'm going to share with you comes from a gentleman called Neville Goddard, and many of you may be familiar with some of his work. It follows such other predecessors, or let's say current practitioners like Dawson Church, I believe, Vadim Zealand, of course, Joe Dispenza. All of these gentlemen have delved deep into the practice of reality creation in quantum physics and have found similar results. Now, what I'm going to invite you to do is you can do this evening, you can even do this morning, and you can also do it if you're ever settling down to have like a little nap, a little powwow, a little siesta. And this is actually leveraging the power of the unconscious mind. So these are the states in which you experience that kind of sleepy, semi-lucid state of being. And you need to take advantage of that, because that provides the mechanism in which it's going to project your feelings to a new reality, to a new state of being, to a new paradigm. So what you're going to do, and I've found the most powerful way of doing this, is actually writing and journaling before you actually practice this. You're going to write in your journal from the first person an event that you want to experience. So say it's that old, say you're trying to attract a particular person into your life. It's a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You're going to sit down and you're going to write from the first person about how happy you are that you have brought this person into your life, that you're now with this person. And you need to write it in intimate detail. Don't scrape out on, the subtle nuances of how it happened, where you met, things like that. And then after you write that down, read it a couple of times, start to embed it into your nervous system, into your thought pattern. And then when you start to wind down for the day, go to bed a little bit earlier, and I want you to I want you to lie in a position that you typically wouldn't when you go to bed. So if you kind of go in the fetal position, maybe lie on your back. The objective here is you don't want to fall asleep too quickly. You want to stay in that kind of semi-lucid state for as long as you can. And what you're going to do, you're going to close your eyes and you're going to rehearse the event that you've just written down in the first person. So say you had a date with this person at the cafe or something like that, and they tell you about how nervous they were to meet you and how excited you actually asked them out, and you've always wanted to get to know them a little bit more. Rehearse that in first person. You're actually in that cafe. What cup of coffee are you drinking? Can you actually feel the handle of the china between your fingers? This is the key. Feeling is the secret, and that's actually one of the titles of Neville's book. Is that when you're rehearsing the thought pattern, the key to actually marrying this together into a new reality is feeling the sensations. So once you do kind of one rehearsal, focus on one thing. What can you hear in the cafe? Can you hear the muttering of other people? Can you hear the chinking of the plates together? Can you hear the steam of the barista using the coffee machine? And then you go through another rehearsal, and this time you might focus on what you can feel. Can you feel again your fingers on the table? Can you feel the sweatiness of your palms if you're a little bit nervous? And then each time you go around, you add another layer of depth over to it. And what's another feeling that's really important to acknowledge at this point is that deep sense of gratitude that you will have when that moment comes into fruition. Now, if you do this correctly, you will fall asleep doing this exercise, okay? To know it, and many of you will be skeptical and cynical of this actually working, which is completely fine. I equally was too. But the way that you know that this works is that you will wake up tomorrow morning with a feeling that it is done. It has happened. And the last thing on your mind will be that you need to do the technique again. You will feel that you have had this wish fulfilled, that there will be no doubt in your mind that what you have done has worked. And this again shouldn't provide you with any kind of ambiguity about what you have just done. Your body has experienced those sensations of event that it believes has already happened. So there's no need for you to then experience it again. I hope I'm kind of making sense here. And in the same way with those individuals who are experiencing PTSD, it's not a question for them whether or not that these events are happening to them in real time. They believe it is happening when their mind goes back to that dark place. Similarly, when your mind maybe dwells on the events that you have chosen to rehearse, there will be no doubt in your mind that your body will start to feel that elation of gratitude. One of the things, the subtle kind of nuances that I've managed to pick up is an opening of the heart. I physically feel the blood vessels in my heart open as more blood flow goes into that area. And that is again one of those sensory feedbacks that you can focus on that perpetuates that feeling of gratitude. It's a very visceral thing, and you need to be very conscious and very mindful of these very subtle nuances that you will pick up once you begin to practice this. Other feelings like, tingles going up the back of your head, a lightness, an expansiveness as well in your consciousness. As you're closing your eyes, you'll kind of feel kind of closed at this point, but as you begin to feel more elated and gracious, you'll feel a kind of a space between that, and you can start to almost feel the edges of the room that you're in. Now that might be very esoteric and nebulous to describe, but try it, and you really can feel these things when you take the time to sit in the seat of the creator, let's call it, more frequently. Gentlemen, this is one of the most powerful techniques that I have ever used, and I've seen things. I'll give you an example actually. So I wanted to make a little bit extra cash from my Twitter because I felt like I wasn't fully capitalizing on the audience, let's say, that I was using. So I put it out into the universe. I imagine from the perspective of me sitting in the seat of the creator, my phone pinging up that I'd received a certain payment through PayPal. And I focused on, again, the sensory gratification that I would feel once I received such an outcome. And 2 days later, I got a business opportunity by 3 different coaches looking to work with me. And that was the wish fulfilled. Gentlemen, I've been using this technique for a while now, and I've yet to see any hiccups. One thing I just will mention as a kind of caveat is you have to let go of the how. You have to let go of what are the rational steps to this happening. Okay, don't start thinking about I just don't know how this thing can happen in reality. I don't know what steps have to happen. You're then identifying with a limited human manifestation. You have to give up these things to the universe, because its will is absolute and the potential it has is infinite. So don't worry about the how, just worry about the wish fulfilled, and the universe will order things in a way to make that true for you. Gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this morning's lecture, and I hope it gives you a little bit of reflection, shifts your paradigm, and also I hope that technique, you try that out tonight and you can start to see how things become ordered to the very feelings, the very thoughts that you house every single day. So with that being said, I drink to your good health always. Have a blessed day, and if you subscribe to anything of which I've said, you can subscribe to me, and I'll bring you something else very soon. Take care.